Hey, we finally have happy hockey to talk about on this happy Friday. Nashville Predators beat the Calgary Flames 4-1. We'll talk about what finally went right for the Nashville Predators last night and how much has your optimism changed since last night's one win. We'll talk about today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free Nashville Predators podcast, available daily on all platforms and on YouTube. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and editor at InsideThePreds.com.
Before we dive too deep into this, today's show brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. And Ann, if I was a betting man, I don't think I would have put money on how last night's Preds Flames game wound up working out.
It was one of those games. I was watching it with my husband, of course. He was sitting quietly as he has learned to do watching hockey with me. But we got to the third period and the Predators were up 3-0. And then Calgary scored and it was 3-1 in the third period. And I literally was like, oh my gosh, I know how this one goes. Like I've seen this movie before. I know how this ends. And he kept saying, you just got to calm down. You just calm down. They got this. Like they're playing so well. Calm down. So this was a game where, as a Predators fan, you literally couldn't quite believe it. And you just, I was holding my breath until the final buzzer because I thought, like, I just did not go into this game thinking it would go this way. And I'm just not going to bet on it ending the way I want until I hear that final buzzer. It was like the horn of Gabriel calling me home.
Yeah. If there's any words that can get a woman to calm down, it's a man telling them to calm down. I'm sure that would instantly make anybody calm down.
I'm not saying we didn't have a talk about it when the game was over. Like, look, here's, don't tell me to calm down and don't talk to me about Matt Duchene.
We're now up to two things.
Two things.
Now up to two relationships. Yeah, the next one is going to be like if he says stop buying Built Bars or something like that.
Oh, he would know better. He would know better because he doesn't want to feed the hungry 18-year-old that scarfs them down. So that sentence actually won't come out here.
Okay, good. I was going to say that's where the divorce papers come into play.
It gets real.
All right. So as Ann mentioned, last night was a big win for the Nashville Predators. It got started at the end of the first period when the guy whose success will single-handedly determine the direction of this season for the Nashville Predators, Mark Jankowski, gets off the score sheet. His first game as a Nashville Predators, first regular season game, his first goal in the NHL since January 18th last year. Preds added 2 in the second period, 1 from Philip Forsberg, 1 from Roman Josi on the power play. As Ann mentioned, it got a little hairy in the third period. Blake Coleman scored 2 minutes in to make it a 3-1 Flames game. And the Flames, or 3-1 Preds lead, but Flames get the lead back. And the Flames certainly put a lot of pressure on Kevin Lankinen, who was in net last night. Preds defense did all they could to kind of stymie the chances. Lankinen was great. And then finally, with just under 15 seconds left, Matt Duchene puts the puck in the empty net to ice the 4-1 Predators win. And what is your one word to describe last night's wild win?
So I know for sure that probably this one word is going to date me. And I don't know if you're even going to get this. You might.
Okay.
There was a jingle years and years ago, like back when I was way younger than I am now. And it was for Rolaids, which is like, Rolaids, right? It's like Tums.
Yeah.
Is it even, it's still a product, right? Please tell me it's.
I assume, yeah.
I assume. And so
like the Werthers of like Antacid.
Yes, it is the Werthers of antacid, my friends. And their old commercial, they would say, well, how do you spell relief? And the person would sing ROLAIDS. They would sing Rolaids. And I am telling you, last night, as that buzzer sounded, as I realized, A, the Nashville Predators got a win. B, the Nashville Predators got a win in which they played really well for 60 minutes. And C, a win over the Calgary Flames. So it means a little bit more. I was thinking in my mind, ROLAIDS. That is how I spell relief. That game last night, so much relief. And it also, just as a side note, works because it helps with that whole hockey gastrointestinal thing that's been going around Nashville. Like, I get that, like, stomach flu and streptococcus and all that spreads, but so does hockey gastrointestinal problems. We needed that win last night, y'all. It was a relief to see the team play as well as they did, and to get a win over Calgary. For me, huge night.
You heard it from Ann, folks. If you are experiencing severe health issues this season, you do not need to go to the doctor or to take any sort of COVID test of any kind. Just turn off Tennessee sports and you will be cured, my friends.
Yeah.
Go out in public. I guess you should maybe start after Saturday during that whole Tennessee-Georgia thing.
Yes. Let's see how that game goes before we really take the advice of somebody who was a Christian education and theater major 25 years ago in college.
Oh, well, I mean, the Christian part. Yeah, you got God on your side.
I got God on my side, but yes. So it was, I'm telling you, that game last night was such a relief. Even honestly, the relief started after that first period, because I think where the Predators have been, you're like, wow, you know what? If nothing else happens, they put together 20 minutes of really good hockey. And then the second period, second intermission, they went into the locker room up 3-0. You think, you know what? We know that they're not great in the third period, but they sure can do good in the first and second period. So it was like you take every little ounce of reassurance last night you could get. So a win, huge. Yeah. Way to go, Nashville, 4-1.
Yeah. My one word, channeling something I'm sure you know very well. My one word is mom. Because do you remember those days where your kids would absolutely cross the line, and they would absolutely cross the line, and you would absolutely go volcano mode on them. You would chew them out. They would be scared to the point of kind of tears. Yeah. They would run to their rooms. And then what happens as soon as they come out of their rooms or the next couple of days? They are extra nice to mom. They're following instructions. They're doing all their chores without even having to be asked. They're getting all their schoolwork done. They are model citizens. Mm-hmm. They are model citizens, but they may not have been if it wasn't for mom bringing the hammer down on them.
That's true.
I feel like somebody in that Preds locker room, somebody who is very, very bald, was the mom of the Nashville Predators after that Edmonton Oilers game. Mm-hmm. I feel like somebody had to have brought that hammer down. Maybe it was just the win itself, or the loss itself in Edmonton was what brought that mom volcano yelling at all the Nashville Predators saying, you can't do this. There's people going to be fired and it's going to be all your fault. Go to your room, Roman Josi. Go to your some news that has Toblerone posters on it or something. And so the Predators come out, they sneak out of their room, their little Alberta hotel rooms. They go to the rink in Calgary and they become model citizens. It is very hard to go through this game and find something the Preds really didn't do all too well. Mm-hmm. They were on their P's and Q's. They were getting all of the little things that they need to get done during hockey games in order to be successful. They were getting that done. They were capitalizing on their chances. The big guns actually played like big guns. So there is just, you go through and it's like, okay. So it just took one absolute beating to maybe get this Predators team back to where they needed to be a successful, sustainable hockey team.
Here's what I think. and just as as somebody who follows hockey and as somebody who has been a mom, I think John Hynes walked into the locker room after that last loss. I don't think he said anything super loud. I don't think he yelled. I literally think he looked at them with that mom look, and then he whispered real quietly, because my boys were together the other night and they said, you know what, we knew it was going to get real when mom didn't yell, when mom just real quietly talked like this and didn't move her mouth. They were like, that's what, and I'm like, that's John Hynes. He went in and he had the mom look and he just said, y'all go home and you think about what you've done.
John Hynes wasn't mad. He was just disappointed.
That needs to be a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That needs to be a t-shirt.
That is the state of the Nashville Predators. There's a couple other big points from this game I want to highlight. We had some roster shakeup before the game, as we hinted yesterday there would be. So let's dive into that in a second. We'll do that right after this. We have our sponsors to shout out, and our first one is betonline.net. Betonline.net, your number one source for betting all the big college football games this weekend. As we mentioned earlier, Georgia taking on Tennessee. That is the big daddy, the big gun this weekend. And of course, we also have Alabama, LSU, but hey, who cares about that one? And as always, if you want to put some money down on any of those games, BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information. Everything from live betting to up-to-the-minute scores, lines, odds, props, all that good stuff. And you can also find the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game this weekend. And it's not just football either. It's hockey. It's the start of the NBA season. It's NFL, MMA, boxing, golf, and of course, this year's World Series. So there's something for every type of fan out there. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. All right, Ann. So we're talking about the Preds' 4-1 win over the Calgary Flames. Of course, the big story going into the game was a little bit of a roster shakeup. We talked on yesterday's show, Kiefer Sherwood being sent down. We kind of speculated on who the Preds would bring up. Wound up being Mark Jankowski, one of the guys we talked about, was having a really good start for the Milwaukee Admirals. First off, Ann, just your thoughts on Jankowski being the one that came up over maybe some of the more, I guess, popular wishing picks among the fan base, like Phil Tomasino or Juuso Parssinen.
I wasn't very surprised. I really think this made the most sense for a couple of reasons. Number one, Jankowski, very good offensively, very hot, leading scorer in Milwaukee early in the season. So he really hit the ground running. He had a great training camp with the Nashville Predators too. So he just kind of was showing that he was continuing to play at a high level. I don't think that it was going to be Phil Tomasino, and we kind of touched on this yesterday. I don't think that that's the role that they're necessarily looking to fill right now. And we'll dive into that maybe a little later, another time. But so I wasn't surprised it wasn't Phil Tomasino at all. I know a lot of people were hoping it was going to be. I was not at all surprised, didn't expect that it would be Tomasino. And I think Juuso Parssinen would be one who I think would be a really great call-up, and I expect we're going to see him at some point because he has a very good, well-rounded game where he's offensively productive. He's very creative in playmaking, but he's also very physical. I just think Mark Jankowski kind of has that same sort of well-rounded game as Parssinen does, but he's just got more experience. He's got over 270 some NHL games and just is kind of the hot hand in Milwaukee. So not super surprised that it was Jankowski. And look, you know, he showed up and did exactly what the Nashville Predators wanted somebody to come in and do from Milwaukee. So I think they have to feel really good with this. And I would be surprised if the Predators don't continue this same roster on Saturday against the Canucks, personally.
Oh, no, they are going all in on this roster for at least a little
for at least a whole nother game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the surprise about Jankowski being called up. Not only that, but I feel like he also kind of fits the Preds identity, and he's got some NHL experience. So it's not like this was just, a nothing call up. I also, think maybe the fact that the Preds were playing the Flames ties into that a little bit because, of course, he was a first-round pick of the Flames, played several seasons before with them before getting not brought back, let's should say. And, for his credit, he killed it. Like, he absolutely killed it last night. That bottom line with him and I believe it was Cole Smith for most of it, and Michael McCarron.
Yes.
That was a very good line. I mean, that line
very good.
was definitely firing on all cylinders last night.
Yeah, I tweeted about that because I'm telling you, they came out and really from puck drop on through that fourth line had an excellent game. And they came out very early on. One of their first few shifts came out and won the board battle, forechecking game, got some really great shots on net. God bless Cole Smith. God bless Cole Smith. He just has not been able to find the back of the net yet, but it's coming, buddy. Just hang in there. It's coming. But I tweeted out afterward, what a great, that was a great shift by the fourth line. And of course, somebody has to come back and go, yeah, well, let's see what they do the rest of the game. And about 2 shifts later, Jankowski, the end of the period, there's Jankowski scoring on a play. And I think that it was Michael McCarron, and I would have to go back and look at the replay. Just a fantastic win at the boards, great pass. And there you have Mark Jankowski. Like, keep it simple, folks. He's literally streaking down the slot to the net and is there for the pass or there for the rebound. Like this, that's exactly what the kind of hockey that you want to see your fourth line play. So fourth line was really good. And for all of the people that speak the name Michael McCarron with disdain. Look, I know he's maybe more of a two-dimensional hockey player, but if all you need from him are those 2 dimensions, Michael McCarron had a great game last night.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fourth liner. He's not like your star center. You need Michael McCarron to do exactly what Michael McCarron's been doing. And he did that, and good for the Predators. The other interesting thing I thought last night was Zach Sanford moving up to that second line. Because remember, we talked about this when he was with the St. Louis Blues. He was kind of in that second, third line tier of players, had a very good Stanley Cup playoffs the year they won, had a career year the next year, which was the COVID shortened year, but could never really kind of regain his form after that. So that sort of ability to jump up and play alongside more skilled players is there for Zach Sanford. And, you didn't get on the score sheet, but it felt like that line, him, Niederreiter, and Johansson, it felt like they were buzzing. Like, it felt like they had some good chances early on. They couldn't convert, but it was very interesting to see Sanford kind of in that role. And it makes me think, like, maybe that's kind of, we've seen Cole Smith up there too. So, and Yakov Trenin. So maybe that's kind of the vibe John Hynes wants for a second line. Maybe somebody a little bit more physical, like maybe somebody a little bit more that can clear the puck, kind of fight for pucks. And then all of a sudden you have Johansson and Niederreiter as kind of your setup skill guys. I don't hate it. Like, I certainly don't hate it. Maybe not what I would do with it, but I certainly see what John Hynes is going with. And at least, for last night, we'll see how long this sticks. But at least for last night, I feel like it worked.
It was not a bad thing to try. And I think everybody's frustrated by the try. I think everybody's like, okay, nail these lines down. Let's get some chemistry going. And that may be a line that you see still together on Saturday. I would love to see those 3 still together on Saturday to see what can develop because, like you said, they didn't necessarily get on the score sheet. I think Johansson had an assist, but I think it was on the empty net goal. So, but the 3 of them didn't, score anything, but that's a line that definitely has a very clear identity as well. So I'd be interested to see if Hynes leaves them together and gives that line another shot, because I think what they had last night, even just regardless of the score, the lines worked pretty well last night. It didn't look like a game where Hynes needed to shift some people up and shift some people down and it needed to make a lot of adjustments, for the next game because they kind of were firing really well. So I thought overall it was a good look. It was a good look.
Yeah, credit to your point. I'm looking at the time on ice, and
Mhm.
And look, Philip Forsberg, 15 minutes last night. Colton Sissons, 14. Zach Sanford, 14. Trennan, 15. Niederreiter, 15. Cole Smith, 13. Granlund, 16. And it's like, I look at these forward time on ice. It was a balanced attack. Like
Yes.
we talked about John Hynes, one of the things we would love to see him do is maybe just take the numbers off of the lines and just put groups of people on depending on how they're playing and what the situation is. And it seems like he did that. This was really a situation last night in which John Hynes really trusted any of his top lines to go out there in any situation and make plays.
Yeah, and I wonder too, because that top line really has not been performing like we saw them perform last season. It's kind of been a struggle getting them into the regular season, getting them on the scoreboard, getting them going. And this kind of takes some of that pressure off, which may benefit them. I mean, again, Philip Forsberg, goal and an assist last night, and Duchesne had an empty net goal. So they showed up better, but I like the idea of like, let's give a balanced attack. I think they're on the right track. There was a really interesting move on defense that I want to touch on real quick. But first, do want to mention that today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends at Simply Safe. Did you know we're coming into the holiday season, and this time of year, property crimes, burglaries, and things like porch pirates, those thefts spike nationally this time of year. So that's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering their 50% off award-winning security system deal right now. More families need to feel safe during this holiday season, and you can order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. That's the third year in a row for them. Here's why. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe, and they capture critical evidence to verify that a threat is real, so you get priority police response. Simply Safe is whole home security with advanced sensors in every room, every window, every door. You have HD security cameras for inside and out. You have smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat is real. And they even have hazard sensors that detect things like fires, floods, and other threats to your home. They have 24/7 professional monitoring service, and it costs less than $1 a day. That's less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, you can stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. You can arm or disarm, you can unlock for a guest, you can access your cameras, you can just adjust your security settings all from your phone. So don't miss your chance to save big on the best security system available. You get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedon today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so you do not want to wait. Go to simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. There is no safe like Simply Safe.
All right, Ann. You mentioned it kind of before the break, and we were talking about roster changes. Dante Fabro, healthy scratch last night's game. Jordan Gross comes in and gets an opportunity to play. Not only does he get an opportunity to play, he gets an opportunity to play a lot with Roman Josi. So,
yeah,
that was fun.
I will say of all of the moments, those little like Scooby-Doo kind of turn your head and go moments. When I saw Gross with Josi, that was my biggest one out of all of kind of the roster shifting and moving that happened pre-game. But you know what? Did not stand out. And you put somebody with Roman Josi, and that's a very different defensive role. If you're paired with Roman Josi, that's not just playing with anybody. And Jordan Gross absolutely went with it. There was no looking like he was paired with someone new. There was no looking like, oh gosh, I'm trying to read what's Josi going to do next. Really played well. And, after the game, Roman Josi was asked about Gross, and he said, look, that's his first game up. And he was really good. Josi had great things to say about his performance, that he enjoyed playing with him, that he felt like he did a great job. So great job for Jordan Gross. This is somebody who I think last year was like the AHL Defender of the Year. So
AHL's Defender of the
yeah,
Year.
How fortunate for the Predators that they have that kind of that kind of talent to draw from. Interesting that he was brought up and Fabro was healthy scratched, I thought. And again, like you said, I thought very interesting that the person you're going to play him with is Roman Josi. Like, go, girl.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Dante Fabro part of this, because that was you look at Dante Fabro's past few games and the ice time, he's just, not getting a lot of minutes over the past little bit. And I've gone through some of the games and it's just, I struggle to find anywhere where he's just, bad, like where he's just making bad plays. But I don't know, maybe this is just him not having the impact John Hynes has thought this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, that was not one I saw coming. Didn't see that one coming. Like, I thought maybe it would be Jeremy Lauzon would sit out and Gross would hop in with McDonough, but they just went right to Roman Josi. And again, that's a very unique role. They did play together some, I will say, in the preseason. And I can't remember if it was a preseason game or if I saw them together a couple times in the inner squad in training camp. But I remember being very impressed with Gross and how he played. So, great to see him in the lineup, not where I expected him to be. But again, it's one of those things where you like nothing about it stood out in a bad way. And he was able to play at kind of that unique style and pace with Roman Josi. So, we may see that again.
Yeah. One other guy we haven't exactly shouted out yet, which is weird because he was maybe the MVP of the game last night, was Kevin Lankinen. Gets in there. UC Saros having a little bit of a rough stretch. Lankinen comes in as a backup and kills it. I think it's important, and that it's important to note that he got better as the game went on as well. In some of those, first period chances, you saw kind of a lot of, pucks off the chest, couldn't control it, second chance kind of pucks. And then kind of as the game went on, as we got into the second and third period, there was a lot more shorthanded saves, like a lot more, catch it in the glove and done. If there is a rebound, it's deflected just out wide. Not a lot of second chance opportunities or juicy rebounds. And for all the talk about, Kevin Lankinen, when you have Connor Ingram right there, there's a lot of people maybe skeptical just based on what Lankinen did with the Blackhawks last year. But this is the type of game you want from your backup, and then some.
Yes.
Like Kevin Lankinen kind of exceeded what you would want from your backup, but to go out here and get a big win, shouldn't be lost on how important that was for the Preds.
It was huge for the Predators. And one thing that Chris Mason pointed out on the broadcast, and that I think is really valid about his performance last night, in that first period, Nashville outshot Calgary by a significant amount. And so he really didn't see a lot of consistent work in that first period. And then you kind of fast forward to the third period, and Calgary came out, and you knew that they were down 3-0 at the start of the period, and then got, back into the game a little bit at 3-1. And Calgary really pushed and pushed and pushed. And first of all, it was great that Nashville handled it as well as they did in front of Lankinen. But Lankinen definitely had an increased workload in that third period and did not look flustered at all, did not look like it was any sort of pressure that he couldn't handle. Phenomenal game from Kevin Lankinen. And honestly, such a sigh of relief for Nashville. And again, want to say how much you and I personally love David Riddick. Like, we just love David Riddick. But it wasn't a situation where you could confidently start your backup necessarily last season, especially against a team like Calgary.
Especially in this situation
as well. Like when I saw this come out, and I was like, Lankinen, willingness to start Lankinen says something about how John Hynes feels about this backup goaltender. And what a great performance by Kevin Lankinen. Just phenomenal performance in net all the way across the board and a relief for Nashville for far more than just 60 minutes. Looking ahead, this is a relief because now we can say, look, UC Saros, we may not need you for 69 games this year.
Let's talk about moving forward because this is just one win. Like it's one good game. And,
don't steal my joy.
Look, well, I mean, we said after St. Louis, we're like, hey, this is the game they finally got back on track. With that in mind, and do you look at it as, okay, this is just one game. Let's see how we go moving forward. Or do you look at this as, okay, there was some things that we had been doing well that's finally paying off, and maybe this is a sustainable thing?
Yeah. I think of this, and this is probably a horrific analogy, but just I need you to follow me through it because there's a point.
Love where this is going. Let's go.
Buckle up. So this season, and especially games like St. Louis and the games like this, remind me a little bit of a colonoscopy prep. In the sense
that's going to do it for today's Locked On Predators, everybody. Thank you for all that.
I know. But if you think about this, like, it's the right thing to do. It's good for you. You drink the awful stuff and the process begins. And at some point in the clean out process, you have this moment of, surely this is it. Surely we're good to go and we can move forward with what we need to do. And St. Louis was a false alarm. Like there was more to come. The system was not cleaned out, my friends. Hopefully Calgary is, but I think Nick is not okay with this.
No, keep going.
But I think we're going to know we're ready to move forward. And this is kind of a page turn. We're ready for the scope. We're ready to, get this all over with. I think it helps that the game on Saturday is Vancouver, because if the Predators can play close to as well as they played against Calgary, they should be able to get a win and start logging some wins. Tuesday, then they have the Seattle Kraken. Now the Seattle Kraken ain't nothing, so let's be careful getting too overconfident. But I really do hope, I so desperately hope that we're almost done with the cleanse.
I don't know where to.
Couldn't have said it better yourself, could you, Nick?
I probably could have said it in a less disturbing way for a Friday morning, but
it's a great analogy and it works.
I didn't say it wasn't a great analogy. I'm just saying it's like I have to make breakfast after this.
I would give it some time.
Okay. Well, I'm hungry now, but whatever.
Okay.
Look, here's the takeaway, because we're running a little short on time. So to wrap this up, I think it's just a wait and see kind of thing. And the Preds have a long stretch of road trip left, but it does seem like up until that last game, who was against a certain defending Stanley Cup champion, we've played, I think, the toughest 2-game stretch of the road trip thus far. Vancouver is struggling, although they've seemed to have gotten back on track over the past couple of games. Seattle is good, but they certainly have some question marks. And then that Colorado game, they're going to be coming back from Finland. So let's not, rule that out of the realm of possibility that they may be not 100% ready for that game either. So, I do think, at least at the very least, and I would say this, Predators winning last night at least puts them on a track where you can maybe look at this as a successful road trip. If you can win 4 out of 6, however many games is left in this, I would say that's pretty successful. If you beat who you're supposed to beat, and maybe there's like one slip up there, maybe you fight really hard against Colorado or come up short, or maybe you beat Colorado and just lose to a team like Seattle in a tough game, I think you can overall say, you know what, this road trip was a win. We did what we needed to do. And now we can go back to Nashville and kind of have a little bit more confidence and get this back on the right track.
Yes, I would agree with you. I think the win last night, as great as it is, I know that it's just one win, but it does set the Predators up for the possibility of a successful West Coast road trip. And like you said, can't overestimate the importance of the confidence that would be for this team.
Minus the colonoscopies.
Look, if you're 45 or above, you should be getting your colonoscopy.
We're ending this.
Wrap it up.
We're wrapping this up. Yeah, Locked On Predators, folks. If you're listening on any audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff, be sure to drop us a rating. Give us a 5-star review if you really like us. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. That way you will be the first to know when we have a new episode hot and ready for you. And where can the people find your work?
You can find my work at InsideThePreds.com, and you can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
I'm Nick Morgan. You can find me at ontheforecheck.com. Follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show on Twitter as well, LO_Predators. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back on Monday with plus minus in Preds recap from this weekend. See you then.